Welcome to Psychonaut Sessions, your home for all things psycho. This is your host, Daniel Mueller. We are continuing the Halloween month theme by tackling scary books, terrifying tales of the macabre. Really just still lost gems from the 80s that I was addicted to when I was younger, things that I found recently, but with just that kind of horror scary bent. Last video I dropped was Vegas Nights, written by James Va Hise. Fun tale from Pioneer Comics. If you have not watched it, please check it out. And I was digging through my comic box, or comic boxes rather, just trying to take a look at what I currently had that had any kind of a horror Halloweeny vibe, and I ran across this sucker, which is actually one of the first comic books I've ever owned. And you can see the creases here. I remember picking this up at Food Fair grocery store in my hometown, right off the racks. Really intrigued because what kid did not like Ghostbusters, and the fact that there was a Ghostbusters comic blew my mind. I haven't opened this thing up in well over a decade, and I flipped and I see right away, written by Jim Va Hise. If I said Hein earlier, I was wrong. Jim Va Hise, I think that's the way it's pronounced, writer of Vegas Nights, as well as Green Hornet and the Real Ghostbusters at Now Comics. I actually just communicated with Mr. Va Hise, and looks like that we're going to be having a Psychonaut session together really soon. So I believe in serendipity. I believe in synchronicity. When coincidences come up in my life, I follow those suckers like the Psychonaut aficionado that I am. So, Now Comics started in 1985. Really was focused on a lot of IP work. They did an incredible Terminator series that extended the Terminator universe after the movies originally came out, as well as, of course, Real Ghostbusters, Green Hornet, like I mentioned earlier. Speed Racer was one of their bigger ones, as well as Astro Boy. I actually have a few copies of the Speed Racer and Astro Boy comics. Loved them. And the thing I loved about Now Comics is they always had these painted covers that had some kind of real interesting coloring on them. I think a lot. This one obviously looks like it was done in pen and ink, and then kind of painted within the colors. But a lot of them were just straight up painted, like the Terminator ones, especially. They blew my mind. I had quite a few of the Terminator books as well. Unfortunately, I don't think I have any of those left. But we'll see. We will see. About picking something up in a dollar bin somewhere. Most definitely. So, let's take a look inside the Real Ghostbusters. Most people should know, especially if you watch Netflix and the movies that made us, there's actually two Ghostbuster properties out there. There's the regular Ghostbusters, which stars two weird dudes with cameras and an ape. And then the Ghostbusters that was established by Dan Aykroyd and Ivan Reitman and Bill Murray. And we get this amazing IP called The Real Ghostbusters to distinguish it from the original Ghostbusters. So, a couple of interesting things of note in the editor column here. They were talking about, this is in 1988. Yeah, 1988. The editor, Tony Caputo, is talking about a Speed Racer movie at this time, well before the Wachowski brothers even made the current Speed Racer movie. So, and it seemed like that they were hot off the presses with it, so that had a producer and they were working through a script, and they even had a little contest for their readers to decide who they would want to play Speed Racer and all the other characters. And of course, the top picks for Speed Racer from the readers are Charlie Sheen, Tom Cruise, and Johnny Depp. Yeah, well, Tom Cruise could probably still do that because he hasn't aged. But anyway, and I apologize, this is not issue number 1. I only had issue number 6. It's the only thing I saw in the stands. I liked, as a kid, picking up comics that were in the middle of a series. I liked the feel of stepping into a world that was already established. That actually excited me. I know that there's a lot of talk nowadays about, well, what are new readers going to do? How are they going to know what's going on? And blah, blah, blah. So a lot of IPs are always rebooting and starting things over at number one. Plus, it's like really good for sales, apparently. But I like the feel of walking into a series that's already been ongoing. When I walked into Uncanny X-Men, which is probably the longest run of comics that I ever collected in my days, I loved it that I was walking in the 200s and had all of this past and history that I could go and uncover and figure out, and the characters felt more real because of that. So Jim Va Hise, already talked about him, and then penciled by John Tobias. John Tobias did the Real Ghostbusters, I think the whole series, along with Jim Va Hise, and then went on in the future to be the creator of Mortal Kombat. So big name here. Big name. Had no idea that this is where he got his start. What's really cool about this is that we just get a splash page in the very beginning that is not tied to the story, really. I mean, it is tied to the story in terms of concept, but it's not part of the sequential flow of the story. It's just the title piece, and I really like that. That just has this like fun feel to me, like you're actually watching one of the cartoon episodes. I think the point of this was to really expand on the cartoon, because the cartoon didn't really dive deep, so it wasn't a rehash of the cartoon at all. It really kind of took a deeper look at some of the characters in a fun way. I mean, this is a cartoony book, but I love it. So immediately we get this Count Sprocula character, who is a TV character, a TV horror host that's obviously introducing scary movies and whatnot. And it's cool to see that some of the behind the scenes going on here. Let me say from the outset, the pages in this book as a child are probably some of the most influential images towards my cartoony style. I grew up kind of out in the middle of the country. I didn't have a whole lot of access to comics except for what came through the grocery store, and we didn't get a ton. There were no comic shops anywhere near, and for the longest time I didn't even know a comic shop existed. So I, of course, had some of the staple Marvel DC stuff. Every once in a while, there were some Now comics that came onto the stand. Nothing else that I recall other than Now, and this stuff was everything to me. It was just a connection to a wider world, and I must have looked at these images forever. Plus, the style of this particular cartooning reminded me a lot of Mad Magazine, of which I basically received a merit badge in Boy Scouts. For like, all we did in Boy Scouts was jump on a trampoline and read my magazine the whole time. We didn't have a great troop leader, so gives you a little bit of my background. Anywho, kind of walk through this story. This character is introducing a movie. He gets interrupted by a couple of ghosts that are basically shutting him down, taking over the station. And of course, Peter Venkman and Slimer are watching it together, thinking it's all part of the show, having a great time with it. Then we see this awesome ad here on the TV for a gun, and it's kind of hearkening to the Aliens fanfare that was going on at the time. Really cool. Again, I studied these images so thoroughly. Just loved this stuff. So Peter gets inspired, wants to go buy a gun because, man, girls get all the cool guns, because this is a toy gun for girls. So, or girls get all the cool toys, not all the cool guns. I'm sure girls get all the cool guns too. Actually, so he goes talk to Egon. Egon's working on a new Ecto, so they had a whole bunch of different Ectos, Ecto 1, Ecto 2, Ecto 3 throughout the series. This is Ecto 3, which plays into a later storyline. I need to collect all these issues. Slimer's getting scared in the meantime of what's on the TV. We go to the TV station. All the staff are hiding out while the ghosts have basically taken over, and they're changing all the TV shows into being horrible, like scary types things. Back at the Ghostbusters station, we have Janine on the phone, and this fellow just kind of runs in, starts giving Ray a hard time with his weight. Poor Ray. Dan Aykroyd, man. But what's the one thing I always found weird about that I could never reconcile as a kid? The way, how different the TV characters were from the movie characters. I didn't know why they didn't just make them a little bit more relational. I mean, they were in terms of basic concept, but I mean, why is Egon blonde and has this like really huge Jerry curl? I think that one was the one that was just that stood out to me. I didn't hate it. It was just kind of hard to reconcile. Anyway, this is the TV station manager. He comes in to kind of hire the guys, shows them what's going on TV. Here's an ad for Speed Racer. Again, those kind of airbrushed colors. I loved them. I love this airbrush stuff. So much fun. So basically, hiring the Ghostbusters um, to help take care of the TV station, and they're on their way there. When they go, everything inside has this like Egyptian tomb quality. They kind of thought maybe it was the TV station at first, but obviously it was like there's something going on spook wise. The inside's kind of like an Egyptian tomb. So they split up. They get uh, uh, interrupted, or not interrupted, invaded, attacked. What am I trying to say? Ambushed by a mummy. And they start shooting at him, but it was actually the TV station manager. He apparently blacked out and then woke up in mummy garb in the station. I loved this image. Great cartooning. Loved the figure work here. I loved how the laser blasts, the gun blasts. I can't even remember what the utility packs are called. Anyway, how they were just not any clear lines, but the way they just were upon the black there. Loved this image. Loved it so much. Great, color job too. I know it's just black and white, but the way that it's done with the inks, it's just an awesome job. And then Janine is back at the station watching TV, of course. And so apparently Slimer has a TV show where he's the hero of everything and he's brave. And even when he slimes everyone, they're just like, oh, thanks, man. And so that's a fun little joke. Just again, look at this cartooning just all around. It's just perfect. It's awesome. Back at the TV station, we see there's this shadowy figure that's kind of controlling everything behind the scenes. Peter and Egon get stuck on a TV set, and it looks like they're going to be center of a game show. But here comes Slimer to the rescue. For the other fellas, this was another great image. He just flies right through the TV station manager's face, and they stomp on the traps and open them. Just loved that. I stared at this for hours. I lived out in the middle of nowhere, and there was only 3 stations back then. This is what I had. This was amazing to me. So Slimer ends up saving the day by bringing more traps to the guys, and they start sucking all the ghosts into the traps. And then we have this shadowy figure that it's this wolf mummy character who comes in. So basically they say that this is the nameless one, and I guess they had battled him in an earlier issue. Some sort of Egyptian creature. And there's a lot of images in here. And as a kid, I was like, oh, well, the guy forgot to draw, the snout and ears and everything. But there's this a couple of times when the nameless one looks like a wolf, and then when he doesn't. So I don't know, is he a werewolf that just switches back and forth? I obviously, now that I'm older and I'm an artist myself, I think that probably was deliberate, and I need to read up on the series to know a little bit more about the nameless one. So I need to pick up the rest of these issues. So somehow the guys figured out how to trap the ghosts through VCR, which is awesome. There's another couple of images with the nameless one where he doesn't have a snout at all. So they kind of reconcile, and eventually nameless one has living back to the days of being a monarch and everything. But they kind of convince him basically to just go to and house himself into a museum to protect all the artifacts there, so he has kind of a purpose. And so our last scene here is we see a guy trying to break in an Egyptian tomb, and the thief gets scared off. So fun little segment. And that's pretty much it. Quite a few letters, nothing really of note. A lot of just praise for the book, and just kind of talking about, that there's a big storyline coming up that will actually bridge 3 issues. So that's a pretty big thing. I wish they could have come up with something a little bit more. I like when letter sections have a catchy title. Another image that was burned into my brain, made me afraid of Fright Night until then I actually saw the movie, and I was just like, oh, that's really not that scary. But this terrified me as a kid. And then this subscription ad, just, I think I actually even redrew this multiple times. I loved the cartooning on this. I love this kind of cartooning. And for anybody that knows my work, you can kind of see the influences here. But yeah, I drew this sucker a couple of times. Maybe I should redraw it again, but have it be for Psychonaut Comics. Again, yep, Speed Racer was their big token book, most definitely. The Real Ghostbusters #6. What was the name? Video Nasties. And every one of these Now comics had a poster that was a fold-out poster in the middle. That was basically the cover image. So I had all these covers hanging on my wall as a kid, too. Still wish I had some of them. This poor thing's beat up. Anyway, thanks a lot. Stay scared, ladies and gentlemen. It is Halloween month. Appreciate your time and attendance and participation. Have an awesome day and keep it psycho.